Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday and welcome to Penn Vicarage. Hope you are well and cheerful today. Today is the 22nd of December, which is a day which I always like because it means that the shortest day was yesterday. I always think 22nd of December means that we're on our way back, which is fantastic. Anyway, lovely to see you this morning and welcome to the Vicarage today. Just to tell you what's going on with these talks, there's one more talk tomorrow. Sue talking about John's Pro, the Word Made Flesh, and so that's tomorrow. Then we're going to have a break between Christmas and New Year, and I will restart these talks on Monday, the 4th of January. And we've got some lovely readings to look forward to. The first letter of Paul to the Corinthians, all about love and so on. That's 1 Corinthians. And later on, looking at John's Gospel. So some lovely, lovely readings to look forward to between Christmas and Easter. But we'll stop again after tomorrow and start again on Monday, the 4th of January. So I look forward to seeing you then. Now, reading for this morning is the visit of the wise men to Jesus. A little word about Herod, if I may. In case you didn't know, there were lots of Herods. There were 9 Herods, in fact, the whole family of them. And they were all nasty, really. Their reigns were a mixture of genocide, infanticide, matricide, patricide. In fact, I would say pretty much any kind of icide you can think of, except possibly insecticide. But they might have had that as well, I don't know. This particular Herod he started, apparently he was a fantastic administrator, but he got more and more paranoid as the time went on through his life. He ended up killing his wife and at least 2 of his sons. In fact, the Caesar at the time was heard to say, "I'd rather be Herod's pig than his son." Interesting quote. Herod, not a very nice chap. Anyway, this particular Herod, Herod the Great, is the Herod we're thinking about this morning. And Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 to 12. The visit of the wise men to the child Jesus. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? We've observed his star at its rising and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and the scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it's been written by the prophet, and you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he said to them, sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you found him, bring me word that I also may go and pay him homage." When they'd heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they'd seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Well, I read in the commentary yesterday, there are fewer readings in the Bible which have had more speculation about them than this one. You know, just who were these visitors? What was the star? Was it some conjunction with planets? Who knows what? That quote from Micah and so on. There's been huge amounts of speculation about this reading this morning. But as always, I'm going to stick to the plain and simple, the blindingly obvious. First thing, who were these visitors? Well, the first thing to say is, and I'm sorry if I've destroyed your image of Christmas, I'm afraid they weren't kings. Nor does it say there were 3 of them. The 3 comes from the fact they brought 3 gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and someone's extrapolated from that, there must have been 3 of them. Not true. The Bible simply says wise men from the east. So next time you have a nativity play and you find yourself with 5 wise men, you might have been right, because we don't know. So they weren't kings, and there weren't 3 of them. What we're actually told is they were magi, which effectively means magicians or astrologers. That's who they were. And they came from the east. They probably came from either Babylon or from Persia, which are actually places of bad repute as far as the people of God are concerned, because that's where they were taken to in exile a few hundred years before. And I think what Matthew is trying to get us to see here is that these astrologers from the east, these heathen stargazers, were able to see what King Herod, the king of the Jews, and all Jerusalem with him were not able to see. They were able to see that a king had been born. So, and actually, I think that's astonishing. You're supposed to see the contrast between these, these stargazers, these magicians from the east were able to see it, even if King Herod, the king of the Jews, and all Jerusalem with him were not able to see it. And I think actually therein starts a pattern for the rest of Jesus' life. Because actually it's interesting who actually recognized Jesus. It was tax collectors, it was prostitutes, it was sinners, the poor. They were the people who were able to see who Jesus was. Whereas the hoi polloi, the men in charge, people like Herod with all his huge amounts of paranoia, and all the scribes and the chief priests and so on with their agendas and their paranoia as well, they weren't able to see it. And of course later in his life, what happened to Jesus when he went into Jerusalem? He ended up being put to death on a cross. So I think what Matthew wants us to see is that religious leaders, Herod and all Jerusalem, was not able to see it. But these magicians from the east, the unexpected, they were able to see it. That's the first thing. The second thing is, notice the words that the wise men use, the Magi use, when they go and see Herod. Notice what they don't say is to a child who is to become king of the Jews. What they actually say is a child who is to be born king of the Jews. Jesus didn't become a king. Jesus was a king. He was king from the off. By virtue of birth, he was the Son of God. He was king from the off. That baby in Bethlehem was the one, is the one, and always will be the one who is the real king. He didn't become a king. He wasn't so grown up into a king. He was a king from the off. That's the second thing. So we've got who the wise men were. We've got who Jesus was as well. But also, very quickly, those three presents which they brought to the baby Jesus. Now, most young children would probably have preferred an Xbox or a football or something like that. They are rather unusual presents, gold, frankincense and myrrh. But they were presents with a reason. They brought him gold because they recognised somehow that this new king was king. And they brought him a present fit for a king. They brought him gold. They also knew somehow that this child was going to be, and is, I should say, the great high priest. He's the one who's going to sit at the right hand of God intercessing for us. And he was going to be the one who's going to be the great high priest. So they also brought him a present fit for a priest. They brought him incense, frankincense, which you burn in churches and that sort of stuff. A present fit for a high priest. And with myrrh, we enter the ranks of the surreal here. Because myrrh in those days was something you put on dead bodies to stop the smell, stop the nasty smell. And so, generally speaking, when a child is born, that's, embalming fluid or equivalent is not necessarily the first thing you'd think about bringing a present for a baby. But I think they somehow knew that one day this child would die on a cross and then would be laid in a tomb and then would rise again. And his victory through death and resurrection would be the victory of God. So they brought him three presents: gold for a king, frankincense for a priest, and myrrh for somebody who would one day die for us. So much speculation about this incredible reading this morning. But who were these people who visited? They were magicians from the east. But they were able to see, even these magicians were able to see what the people in Jerusalem weren't able to see, that a king had been born. Secondly, Jesus wasn't going to become a king. Jesus was born King of the Jews. And thirdly, what did the wise men bring? What did the magicians bring? They brought gold for a king, frankincense for a high priest, and myrrh for somebody who would one day die and rise again and bring the great victory for us. If I don't see you, have a lovely Christmas. God bless you, and may the true meaning of Christmas, the love of Jesus, be born in your heart this Christmas time. Please keep peaceful, keep well. God bless you.